The E36 M3 is possibly the most boring M3 ever made. But here's why I would buy one again. I have owned my E36 for a little over a year now, and although I wasn't looking for one, I'm really glad I happened upon mine. Lately I've cared about three things in the fun car that I own. Number one, it's gotta be cheap to prep for the track. Number two, it's just gotta be fun to drive and have a manual transmission. Number three, it's gotta be overall reliable. Number four, it's gotta have character. I said three things, but that was really four. My E36 M3 is now my track and weekend car, and of maybe the 10-ish cars that I've been very fortunate to own, this one has slowly become my favorite. When looking at the M3 lineage, the E36 is relatively the cheapest M3 generation to buy and own. And I'll make sure to talk about those distinctions here in a minute. I like to drive the out of my cars, and because of that, I end up doing a lot of preventative maintenance so that I don't break a lot of I guess even with that, I still break some Luckily, the E36 aftermarket and OEM parts are relatively cheap and widely available. And because of that, it makes the car relatively cheap to own. And that's an important distinction, cheap to buy versus cheap to own. You can buy an old Italian car for cheap, that doesn't mean it's going to be cheap to own. And I equate ownership costs to maintenance, insurance, and a lot of other expenses just to keep the car on the road. Now there are a lot of variables here because the E36 M3 is now a 20-year-old BMW. So I would say if it's going to be cheaper to own if you do your research before buying a specific example that you find on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And I say the E36 generation is potentially the most boring M3 generation because it is what I consider to be a neutered model, especially for the United States. It didn't get a special engine like the E46 or the E92. And I would also buy one again because it's incredibly easy to work on. I am not a mechanically inclined person, and this is honestly the first car that I have really taken a stab at of doing things other than oil changes. I've done coilovers, brake pads, brake rotors, brake lines, brake fluid, power steering lines, you name it, a racing seat install. And I'm just gonna keep taking a stab at it. As things break, I'm gonna try and fix them myself. So trust me, if I can work on this car, I think most people can. Plus, I just love the 90s design. It doesn't have the flares that I love on the E46 or the E90 series or even the F series. But at least it doesn't look like a fucking hairdresser with giant nostrils like the newest one does. So in short, I would definitely buy one again based on my use case and how I use the car. If you're looking to buy one, I would say do your research. There's a lot of resources out there for the car. It's a 20-year-old BMW, so you're going to want to make sure you get lots of maintenance records with whatever example that you buy. But I am a very happy owner with my E36 M3. It has been a great track and weekend car for me, and I would 100% buy one again.